So welcome everyone. We're gonna today talk about the program Gift, Gratitude, and Joy, Finding Our Sacred Roots in God's Creation, and what exactly it is and how you might want to offer it in your community. First of all, it can be a good way to find other members of your congregation who are interested in creation care, and it can help create a common foundation. The series is designed for small group discussion, either in person or virtually. It's intended that any person who is a good facilitator could lead this program, even with only a little knowledge of environmental issues or a little knowledge of theology. The facilitator and participants can all learn and grow together. Also, we want to answer any questions you have today, but if you think of questions at a later time or you decide to facilitate the program and have questions along the way, please contact us. We're happy to support you. So to access the program, you start at the Waukesha County Creation Care Network page. When you click on the Gift, Gratitude, and Joy series button, which is scrolled down from that header I just showed you, you'll see the picture shown here to the left. Then you know you're in the right spot. So this program is completely free to use. However, we would like to know if you use the program. So we appreciate it if you register, and I've circled that register here. All the resources and links you need for each session are further down on this page, but let's look at the program guide to see the program details first. If you happen to have printed it out, it can be helpful so you can follow along in your guide. If not, that's totally fine. So if we click on that program guide button, you'll see this. This is the cover page for the guide, and the guide is 10 pages long. Each participant who's in the program will need a copy of this guide. The guide is also what the facilitator uses to lead each session. On page 2 of the guide is the program summary. The series is intended to include 6 sessions. Each session is 90 minutes long. However, the program can be customized. So you could choose to just offer one session, any of these sessions, and offer it as a single event for your community. The first title is listed in the video and discussion component. So the Gospel of Creation, or How We Know God, a Franciscan perspective, and so on. The second title listed is the guided activity that explores an environmental issue, such as water, food, waste, and so on. The last session is intended to provide a summary, inspiration, and planning for future steps. So let's take a closer look at session 1 to see how a program would flow. So this is covered on page 3 and 4 of the guide. It's not meant to be an eye test for you today. I just wanted you to see the layout for the session. So I enlarged it, and so you can read it better. And you can see, first of all, here's the session title. Session 1 video and discussion is about the Gospel of Creation, and the environmental topic is water. So just a couple of things to mention at this point. Notice that there's a time allotted in parentheses for each section. So it says icebreaker, 10 minutes as an example. This is intended to help the facilitator plan for the 90-minute long program. So everything provided here is optional. So the facilitator can choose what to include or exclude or how long to take in each section. Another thing to mention is we're going to flip back and forth between the program guide and the web page today. But the guide is intended to be printed out and given to each participant. And so if you have the paper copy sitting in front of you, you can keep the web page with all these links open in front, and you won't be flipping back and forth. The web page has all the links you need, including the video, the scripts, the activities. Okay, so these headings say icebreaker 10 minutes and welcome and introductions 10 minutes. These sections are only included in session 1, but they're helpful in setting the stage for growing and sharing if you're going to offer the full program. The icebreaker is a game called Getting Out of a Bind. You provide a rubber band for each participant. Each participant puts it on their hand as shown in this picture. The object of the game is to free your hand without using your other hand or your teeth, but the purpose is to consider animals that have become entangled in plastic. Back on the web page, there's a link to more details on how to play this game, a sharing question, and a photograph of this actually happening to a sandhill crane in our area. So you can choose to read that and show participants, or you can choose to skip it. Other sessions begin instead with a welcome back and sharing adventures section. This is intended to give people an opportunity to share what they've learned since the last session and encourage each other on their journey in caring for creation. Each session includes an opening prayer and reflection. In parentheses, it indicates that 15 minutes is scheduled for this. There's a prayer and a scripture reading. In this case, the creation story of Genesis. It's helpful if you provide Bibles or have participants bring their Bibles so one of them can read the scripture and everyone can follow along. There's always a sharing question. What stood out for you in this reading? Now we're on page 4 of the participant guide. After opening prayer, there's an explore session, which typically involves a video to watch and discuss. In this case, the video is Catholic Social Teaching 101, Care for God's Creation. There are discussion questions provided, but feel free to use your own questions or let the conversation go wherever the Holy Spirit leads. The video itself is linked back on the main Gift, Gratitude, and Joy page. So here, back on that main page, when we scroll down, we see session 1 materials. See right here where I've circled, there's the video link. We can see the video is about 3 minutes long. When we click on that link, the video is going to load. And this is a really good video put on by Catholic Relief Services called CRS. And throughout the video, an artist is drawing and coloring in the art piece. The videos for other sessions are local community leaders. After discussing the video, the next part of the program is called Making It Real. In session 1, the discussion is all about the environmental topic of water. So we're looking again at the program guide on page 4. As you can see, this allows 20 minutes for the Making It Real activity. There's an introduction provided right here in the guide and an activity that the facilitator leads participants through. To access this activity, we need to go back to the Gift, Gratitude, and Joy webpage and look again at session 1 resources. Here's the link to the environmental activity about water. So a document opens up when we click that link and the activity directions, and only the facilitator will have this. In this case, it's a script. The facilitator first leads participants to consider the spiritual growth with their spiritual connection, with water, and then connect that spirituality with water usage in their daily lives. The script continues by providing details of water local scarcity issues, and then introduces different types of water conservation. If you don't have a lot of biblical knowledge, maybe you're panicking a little right now since you can see that the first thing is to brainstorm Bible stories involving water. But don't panic because 14 answers are provided for you right in the script. Or maybe you're concerned because you don't know anything at all about local water scarcity, or you've never heard that there are different types of water conservation. But don't worry, all the information you need to know is provided in the script. You can learn this information right along with the participants, although I personally recommend you prepare for each session a few days in advance. So back on page 4 of the guide, the next section is called Sending Off with an Adventure. Only 2 minutes are scheduled for this because the only thing we're doing is reading through the list and allowing participants to select one or more to do during the next week or before the next session. Some of the options are more prayerful, some are educational, and some are more active. They'll be asked to share at the beginning of the next session what adventure they chose and what their experience was. So all the links for these adventures are located on the website. For example, number 1 is calculate water usage. So participants can click this link and it'll take them to that adventure and they'll have an opportunity to figure out their own water footprint. Participants may choose several adventures or none at all, but the more that they do, the more they'll learn and the more they'll have to share at the next session. So try to encourage participants to pick at least one thing. To end each session, there's a closing prayer. Sometimes it's a written prayer and other times it's a music or video link. And again, those are all back on the main session page. So back on the website, I want to take a look at additional resources. When you click on the document, what you'll see are recommendations from participants themselves that they offered as they went through the program. Everyone is encouraged to add to this document to increase everyone's knowledge base. That's what learning from each other is all about. And I would say at this point, we've run at least 6 different gift, gratitude, and joy sessions. So this really is all about learning and growing together. There's just a few more details to show you. So when you look at this Leader Resources section and click on that, we'll find Zoom resources, promotional materials, and the slide loop, video speakers, and a link to the program summary. Promotional materials include the Gift, Gratitude, and Joy image banner, bulletin articles, a flyer, and social media materials that you can use. Then I want to point out the weekly PowerPoints. If you click on that folder, what you'll see is several PowerPoint decks. Some of our facilitators find it useful to create a PowerPoint slide set that has all the videos and links embedded in them, so they don't have to go through different tabs back on the website when they're going through their program. So here are slide sets that are available in this weekly PowerPoint folder. You can see currently there are sets for sessions 1, 2, 3, and 5. We'll have sessions 4 and 6 complete in a couple of weeks. So let's just, as an example, pull up session 1 full program slide set. One thing you want to note is that using slide sets can be a matter of personal preference. So here's an example. In some sessions, the facilitator has a choice to make for the program material, and the slide set is going to reflect whatever the particular facilitator decided to use. So we'll recommend that you review all the materials for each session and then decide if you want to use the slide set or change the slide set or create your own before facilitating the series. Okay, so this is a link to the letter from Pope Francis called Laudato Si. Participants are encouraged to read sections of this letter in the sending off with an adventure section. As a facilitator, you might wish to read this entire document before you begin, although it is not necessary. And just an additional promotion, soon our group, the Creation Care Network, is planning to offer a Zoom study of this encyclical letter. So there's just a few last tips. The facilitator will want to review the entire program before offering it for their community. That way, any questions can be addressed up front. So we're happy to help you prepare to lead this program, whether it's the nuts and bolts of how to access materials or the content material itself. We would appreciate a few days notice though, so that's another reason to review the entire program before you offer it in your community. The guide is intended to be printed out and given to each participant. For the first sessions, rubber bands will be needed for that icebreaker. And for every session, participants should be encouraged to bring a Bible to follow along in the opening prayer, or you may want to provide one. In session 3, instead of a video, we offer a guided meditation that has a script for the facilitator to use. The Making It Real sessions are all different. Sometimes there's a script like I showed you today, and sometimes there's an online quiz, or sometimes a PowerPoint format, but always we've intended to provide all the materials you need, including the background information. In session 5, we initially offered a single Making It Real. However, the material is a little bit complicated, especially if your group is comprised of beginners. So we provided an easier Making It Real option. That's the one about energy usage. And lastly, session 6 is really quite flexible with different programming options based on your goals. Session 6 can be used primarily to review the material covered so far, or as an inspiration for the community to identify specific goals and actions and form a Creation Care team to do further work in their community. It's important for the facilitator to allow plenty of time to prepare for session 6 since there are so many choices to make. A great time to run the program is beginning the week of Earth Day, which is April 22nd. That allows time to finish the series before school gets out for the year and people start going on vacations. Another great time to run the program is starting the week of the Feast of St. Francis, which is October 4th. This allows time to finish the series before Thanksgiving. Or you might consider a Lenten program, since Lent is intended to be a time of fasting. So those are just some tips that we've found as we've run this program a number of times. Thank you very much. So now it's time to ask any questions that you have. I have led this program for adults, and I've run it first to a group of individuals who signed up for the Creation Care Network or other programming that we offered years ago. We did that via Zoom. and it was still during a lot of the shutdown time of COVID. I also led this program in person in my church, and so I offered it to the entire parish. I had, I think, 10 participants for that program. When we offered it in the very first time via Zoom, I think we had 20 or so participants, and we broke out into different rooms that had a more manageable number, like six participants per room. So maybe it was even more than 20. The material, though, can be adapted to be used for younger ages. I think I've used parts of this material or parts of this programming for high schoolers and middle schoolers. And we do have programming specifically for elementary. Joanna and I have both led vacation Bible camps, for example. It's not with this program in particular, but with other materials that we have available.
Yeah, and I have led this program 3 or 4 times and done it in a variety on Zoom, in person. I've only led it with adults, but for my congregation, I teach confirmation, and I would not hesitate to use it for confirmation age or high school. I think it's really adaptable, and it's topical, and it's things that teenagers naturally really care about in general.
I think in person could be large as long as you have opportunities for small breakout sessions. I would suggest, off the top of my head, I think that if you eliminated or not eliminated, but reduce the opening prayer and reflection time, you could just start with a very brief prayer. Typically we allow 10 to 15 minutes for that. So that would reduce. Okay. You could also decrease the length of your discussion for the video sessions. Okay. So you could still have the discussion. Another thing as a facilitator that I've learned from some teachers lately that might help with reducing the discussion time, but still making it very fruitful, is something called think, pair, share. So after you present the material, whether it's in the opening prayer or whether it's during the discussing the video, you spend 1 minute just thinking, reflecting yourself. Then you spend 2 minutes sharing with a partner. So it's just 2 people. So person A talks for 2 minutes uninterrupted. And then after 2 minutes, person B talks for 2 minutes uninterrupted. And then the larger group comes together and shares just what stuck out to any particular group. So not every group would share in that moment, but that way you can reduce a very long discussion. So everyone will get, and that sometimes introverts prefer this too, because they are only talking to one person, and also to be completely uninterrupted. There's no, oh, I know what you mean. There's none of that discussion happening. Just the essence of what a person is thinking. So then you can reduce a longer discussion down to, that's a 5-minute discussion, and then plus a group sharing. That's something I've learned recently, which is kind of a very interesting way to do things. The making it real really does take the time it takes, in my experience, that it's hard to shorten that. But I think it can be done in a total of 60 minutes to offer a lunchtime program. I think it can absolutely be done. All right, well, thank you for your interest. Thank you for being on this journey with us to further this important work. And we look forward to seeing you at future events.